Hello, friends. Our new text is called Fragile Frogs. It's an informational text that we can find in our text collection. It's the first story. Today we're going to read pages 5 through 8. And what we're thinking about today is identifying main idea and supporting details. If you remember our work from last week, a topic can be captured in one or two words, right? So the topic of this passage is frogs. But that's not the main idea. The main idea is the big idea that the author wants us to know about. And there might be a few main ideas in this article. Today we're reading pages 5 through 8. Fragile frogs. Amphibian scientists are like everyone else. They like to talk about what they do. At an international conference in 1989, nearly everyone was telling the same story. There seemed to be fewer amphibians, frogs, toads, salamanders, and caecilians. I think that's how you say it. Each scientist thought it was happening just to the animals he or she studied. But when the scientists talked to one another, they realized it was happening everywhere. Concerned scientists surveyed amphibian populations all over the world. They discovered that about 1/3 of amphibians, 1,856 out of 5,743 species, are threatened with extinction. Since 1980, at least 122 species have probably become extinct. Australia had a remarkable species called the gastric brooding frog. The mother frog swallowed her eggs and hatched her babies in her stomach. The little frogs hopped from their mother's mouth into the big wide world. During the 1980s, the Australian gastric brooding frogs disappeared. Amphibian means double life. Most amphibians begin their life in a watery world, breathing through fish-like gills. Then they transform into an entirely different creature, an air-breathing animal. Something similar happened in Costa Rica. Golden toads once lived in Costa Rica's cool, wet forests. The males of the 2-inch-long species were golden orange, like web-footed tangerines. They gathered by the hundreds during the breeding season. The golden toad was last seen in 1989. Like the gastric brooding frog, the golden toad is now considered extinct. No one knows what killed the gastric brooding frogs or the golden toads. Habitat loss is a big problem for wild animals, including amphibians. Frogs, toads, and salamanders die when wetlands are drained, ponds are filled, or forests are cut down. Sometimes amphibian habitat is fragmented, which means chopped up into smaller pieces. When roads, houses, or shopping centers are built, imagine a tiny frog trying to hop safely across a freeway or parking lot. Scientists looked closely at the places where amphibians were declining. To their surprise, they found it wasn't always where the habitat was being lost or fragmented. Frogs were disappearing from protected areas or places far from humans. Costa Rica's golden toad lived in a national park. The gastric brooding frog lived in remote parts of Australia. This picture is of a red-legged walking frog from Africa that looks like he's wearing tiger-striped underwear. Walking frogs take steps with their hind legs instead of hopping. Here's another image. The only golden toads left are museum specimens like this one. The species is believed to be extinct. Here's a picture of a Sonoran desert toad. Deformed frogs appeared too. In 1995, middle school students in Minnesota found frogs near a farm. They were juvenile leopard frogs, just like the ones Tyrone studies. Many of the Minnesota frogs had missing legs or shriveled legs or legs that didn't bend. It was strange and scary. People began finding deformed frogs in many other places too. What was happening with the world's amphibians? The answer isn't simple. Amphibian decline has many causes. Since the 1980s, the chytrid fungus has spread around the world. The disease is killing amphibians in North America, Central America, South America, and Australia. To make matters worse, global warming seems to cause temperatures to help the fungus grow. Left is a blue poison dart frog that lives in South America. Below, this leopard frog was caught by a child in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. It has an extra leg growing out of its chin. Other deformed frogs were found in the same place. A deadly fungus that threatens frogs was first discovered in the blue poison dart frog above and the white tree frog shown on page 9. All right, friends, that catches you up with pages 5 through 8. Use the information from this text to answer the questions in your on-demand assignment about main idea and supporting details.